Hello, brothers and sisters. The title of the message today is Being Led by the Hand of the Lord. Subtitle number 2, I Met the True Authority. I joined in Campus Crusade as a staff member, and it was the first morning conference. That morning, Reverend Jun Kim proudly declared this. We are crusade members. We are soldiers. Soldiers should never be captivated by private or personal problems. This is not a company. We are crusade members spreading gospel all over the world. If you receive order to go, you have to go. If you receive order to come, you have to come anytime. And whenever you receive order to leave Campus Crusade, you have to leave Campus Crusade. I felt as if I was hit by a hammer on the backside of my head. I was fighting against leaders of our denomination for 4 long years because they were executing dictatorship in the administration of our denomination. But at the end of that period, I was kicked out of our denomination. But what's Reverend Kim talking about it? I felt that they were setting up shrewd conspiracy and trying to kick me out. My brains were empty, my heart became cold, I couldn't say a word. Before the powerful and authoritative declaration of Pastor Jun Kim, I discovered, oh my God, I was not fighting against other people, but I was fighting against God for 4 years. I was rebelling against authority, but I thought I was fighting against the misleading religious power. I did not know the fact that God was pushing me out. As this kind of thought surged into me, my spite against other people flew away. I began to think how painful it was for them also. I wrote a letter to Reverend An, the superintendent of our denomination, right away. Everything was my fault. I apologize. So sorry for letting you suffer pain. And Reverend An sent me a reply. I am terribly sorry also. Thus 4 years of long battle was completely over. Right and wrong always provide a motivation to the war and fighting, but I did not know the fact that there was the authority at the background. Right and wrong was given by Satan, but there is the one who holds the authority high above that place. When I think about the religious battle, I was right and he was wrong, with the criteria of my own right and wrong. Even when I think about it now, I was rebelling the authority with it. There is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Romans chapter 13, verse 1. The knowledge of good and evil came from Satan. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 through 6. I was faithful to the knowledge that came from Satan. I did not know about the authority that came from God. Reverend An was not a person who was right or wrong, but he was the one who held the authority. Because God committed authority to rule over me already. He was the only one. I was serving him as my head in reality, but I did not know the fact that he was the one who received the commitment of God over me. I was just fighting against him with the good and evil criteria. Who was he? He was the head of our denomination. He was my teacher, and his age was similar with my father's age. Was I such a rude person in the ordinary life? No, I wasn't. Reverend An was trying to erase my name from the list of workers of our denomination with no legal reason. I burst into rage on my side. I had a confidence that kind of unrighteousness must be solved in such an opportunity. That's why I started the absurd war. But on the first day of Campus Crusade, I faced authority. I found out the reason why I had to fight and correct explanation of suffering that came over me. Between leadership and ourselves, there was a difference of power. As we could not get the clear answer, we were holding spite in our hearts. God let Reverend Chun-Gon Kim stand above me and correct my concept with his words of authority. During that 4-year period in Campus Crusade, even one moment I did not have any complaining or any negative thoughts against Reverend Chun-Gon Kim. Other people had different attitude right in front of him and at his back. They all respected and followed him, but they said, he should have done that, he should have done this. They had so many different opinions. I saw my old ego among them. I used to do the same thing. I did not have bad intention, but with good intention. I had so many constructive thoughts more than other people. Because of that reason, I started a reformation of our denomination. Suppose more time and more opportunity was given to me, I wanted to reform our denomination in a perfect way. As Reverend An said to me, why are you trying to control a whole denomination? I really tried to control a whole denomination. Therefore, Lord kept me from committing greater rebellion. He stopped me in advance and saved me from the land of rebellion. I'm not the type of man who could fight against him. I should have not fight against him. If I compare myself with him, there's a huge difference between himself and myself. I was putting my roots deep into the reality. As I was included in his territory, I could enjoy my life so well, entering into theological college, being appointed as evangelist of the Youngchun Church and so on. Youngchun Church belonged to the denomination which he already established. Before this enormous reality, I was just like a small chick. How could I try to turn everything over? The only reason was his behavior was not righteous. As Reverend An got rid of so many people in such a way, the denomination was established during the period of Japanese colonial rule. It had a long history, but there was no great development. They had only 10 churches in Korea, and they were barely maintaining the theological college. I insisted we have to correct this, and our comrades supported me. That's how the transformation was started. I risked my life in such a ridiculous fighting. The only reason was to correct unrighteousness in our denomination. I knew I could not defeat the powerful thing, but I thought I had to fight against evil anyway. Reverend An was almost like my father, but could not kneel down before his unrighteous authority unconditionally. I hoped he would convert his way and walk the righteous way. I thought I was the righteous person and knew the justice. I thought I could prove it. But I have never knelt down before any authority. My father was the unique authority. He never forced me to do unrighteous things. He never get angry to me, Sometimes he spanked me, but he explained to me the educational reasons so much in detail. I could obey to righteous things anytime, but I had never faced unrighteous authority before. I think even to my father, kneeling down before him unconditionally could not be possible, maybe. Suppose my father ruled me with his power to obey unconditionally, I could have adjusted and gotten the wisdom. I could learn the lesson, but I don't know whether I'm lucky or not, but I could not get the opportunity to get the wisdom. I foolishly tried to fight against power using my goodness. The world teaches that the goodness will overcome the power, but they don't know the principle of heaven. That's the voice of rebellious people. Paul said, "There is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God." Book of Romans chapter 13, verse 1. That's right. This is the word who knows the principle of heaven. Authority, the power, created heaven and earth, created man and redeemed. Creation and salvation was possible by the power, not by goodness. When I'm in crisis, what will be able to save me? It is not goodness, but power. Power could save me. Who is God? He's Elohim, almighty being. He's not goodness, but he's power. In order to create heaven and earth, he didn't need goodness, but he needed power. Good and evil can be used by power, but they cannot create anything. Power comes out from life, and good and evil comes out from knowledge. If there is no life, there is no power. If there's no power, creation and salvation are impossible. Why didn't I know this? I received inheritance from our ancestor Adam, the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. I couldn't help it. There's no authority except that which God has established. The authority here means not only righteous authority, but also the unrighteous authority, all kinds of authorities, in fact. During the time of St. Paul, he was telling about the worldly authority, directly Roman Empire, political authority. He was talking about the Jewish religion, traditional religious authority, comprehensive meaning. He was telling us to obey to those unrighteous authority also. Why is it so? What kind of authority it may be? They all came from above. Authority includes from the authority of creator, authority of policemen, gangsters, authority of feast. There are good authority and evil authority. All kinds of authorities is above the knowledge of good and evil. Authority is creative. The God who is the power created heaven and earth and saved Israel. The knowledge of knowing good could not defeat Pharaoh, but the power of God defeated the authority of Pharaoh. If we look at the different viewpoints, kings like Pharaoh, Nebuchadnezzar, they created the world, culture, and civilization. Authority makes salvation and destruction. Anyway, authority is the power of creation. But the knowledge of good and evil judges everything. They even judge God. But as they have no life, they cannot do anything themselves. But by the being of authority, they are used when judging. Like myself, who has no authority, has no qualification to use it. If the one who has no authority use it, they will experience the shamefulness, and moreover, they can be killed. But the general teaching of the world, they just teach the importance of knowledge of good and evil. They don't teach the importance of authority. When they meet the power in reality, they experience a miserable failure. In spite of the fact the knowledge rebels against authority until they die, and they emphasize the importance of knowledges. Bible starts with the authority, with the power from the beginning. In the beginning, the power created. What a natural truth it is. If you know this power, and if you return to the source of power, we can overcome the ruling of the knowledge of good and evil, which is mere the tool of judgment. We can enter into the world of mighty being, into the world of creation. Right there is creation, salvation, and a true hope. I learned and got the enlightenment. Authority stands before everything and existing above everything. Chungju is the territory of Methodist Church in Korea. It was the central church of this area. Campus Crusade activity was stationing at this church, but they requested to move to another church. I met Reverend Kim of South Methodist Church, the second largest church in Chungju, and talked about it. He was young, full of energy. He prayed so much, he was so famous. He said to me, if jail church wants you to move out, come to our church. You can do that. I couldn't say no, so I expressed thankfulness to him and went to Reverend Kim of Jail Church. As I heard before in Jail Church, YMCA, YWCA, RCY, various Christian organizations were stationing at Jail Church. But as those organizations didn't help the church management much, so they decided to send them out. I knew it already. I received the invitation from South Methodist Church anyway. And I explained to him my plans in the future. The pastor who said, you'd better move out. But he suddenly changed his attitude and said, let's work together again. Even I received the invitation from South Methodist Church, I did not tell him. Staying at Jail Church could be much better. I said, thank you, I'll try my best, and came out of that church. Next day, he came to visit me and said to me, I'm supposed to go to Toronto, Canada for a training program for 6 months, but I don't want to ask the young evangelist who just graduated from theological college to deliver sermons and all the job in the church. As I met you yesterday, I wanted to ask you a favor. Would you accept my proposal? What had happened? My situation is so urgent. I had to hold anybody and tell them our goal of Christianization movement for Korean Peninsula and Expo 74. That church, the Jail Church, was central church. All the important figures are gathering here, and I became a pastor here for 6 months. How could such thing happen? It was hard to believe. I answered, yes, sir, sure. I came up to Seoul again. I took part in a winter season evangelism training program and went down to Chungju around March 25 officially. I visited pastor, and pastor said, I'll start for Toronto on April 6th. Please deliver a sermon every Sunday and home visiting 1 time a week. All other work evangelists will take care of. A half doubt that became reality. Jail Church was Methodist Church. I was from a different denomination. In Korea, denomination is most important thing, but he did not ask anything about denomination. He did not ask me anything at first. Even later, he did not ask anything at all. I stayed in the Chungju for 2 years. Nobody asked me anything related to my personal things. people trusted Camp's Crusade. And my father-in-law was an elder, and the mother-in-law was a lady elder in the Hyoseong Presbyterian Church. They were faithful and sincere Christians. But anyway, it's not an easy job for a simple job to let other pastors to speak for 6 months in an important podium of their own. I thought God made a mind and thought of the pastor not to see the earth, but just let him look up to heaven. Lord sometimes used people's eyes, ears, and mouth for his work. He let people's eyes to be blinded sometimes, the ears to be deaf sometimes, and mouth to be closed up. It's really mysterious. Thank you. Hallelujah. May God bless every one of you. Thank you again. Thank you.